the Nets announced in the last, 24 hours, like, hey, we're open for sale. Anybody's available. Holler at us. And I think what we are going to see with this new CBA is, I think the trades are going to happen earlier than we've ever seen. I think the trade season is going to begin earlier than we've ever seen because the trades are going to be more difficult to pull off. And I think that there are less candidates or less teams that can possibly get involved in a deal. And so also teams wanting to make a trade, knowing it's harder to make one, not just a team that wants to sell off guys like the Nets, a team that wants to acquire and buy. I think that they're going to try to jump quickly because that's going to be the advantage. So I think we're going to have an early trade season. And the Nets say everyone is available. Now, Nick Claxton wasn't playing. Cam Thomas wasn't playing. But they still were getting it done. They've got a ton of depth. Let's start with Nick Claxton because he's the name that people had been wondering about and talking about for a while now. He signed that extension. I don't know about him, man. I don't know. He certainly fits the bill on paper. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It would be something like DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton, and Kevon Looney, and probably some picks. I think the Warriors would have a hard time trading Loon. Look, if it's Giannis, of course, right? If it's that tier, if you're really like getting a star, I don't think it's a problem. But for someone like Nick Claxton, who isn't one, even though he is someone that, he fits a hole that we need, I'd like him to be a little bigger of a guy. 6'11", what is he, like 220 maybe? But he's aggressive. He doesn't shoot it, but he's a vertical spacer. He protects the rim. He has a high motor. I think that's what I like about him most. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's an option. And who knows what the bids will be and what the Nets are looking for. Let's talk about it, though. I love plopping down on the couch and watching an NBA game like anybody else. But I also understand there are certain things you only feel when you're there, right? You can see the interactions on the bench, the actual speed of the game, the vibes, right? And it's obvious Game Time, a lot of you have probably already used them, best ticketing app out, right? Whether it's concerts, comedy shows, or sports events. But they've got a new thing called Game Time Picks that filters out all the fluff and just immediately gets you the best deals so you don't have to sort through hundreds and hundreds of seats. I am looking at right now, November 26th, NBA Cup Lakers at Suns. And you see right away, 30% off, super deal. And then my favorite feature is actually the way they let you see your seats. And it's kind of live where you can turn and see your full field of vision. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ALCHEMY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code ALCHEMY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Let's talk about it, though. Cam Johnson, if you were watching, he went off last night. He was looking really good. He's shooting on the move. They only list him at 6'8". It feels like maybe it's the hair, right? He feels bigger than 6'8", pause. But let's just be real about it. Right now, Cam Johnson is better than Kuminga. He is. And he would help the Warriors more than Jonathan Kuminga. But he will also be 29 years old in March, right? And, 18 a game, 4 boards, 3 assists. He's 39% from 3. He is the type of shooter. I mean, to simplify, you say he's a knockdown shooter, right? But he's the type of shooter where he's open, you expect it to go in, right? He can shoot a little bit off movement. He's a good team defender, right? I think the knock on Cam Johnson had been, well, especially in Phoenix, it was like he kind of wilted in the playoffs. Like he's a little bit soft, and when it ramps up, the physicality and the spotlight is bigger. He hasn't looked great in those spots, but I also think that you have to take into account when you look at this roster for Brooklyn, they're kind of playing with house money. And just like saying it, like he hasn't looked good in pressure spots in the playoffs. Like last night, he was playing so free, right? He was playing like he wanted to get traded. But when there's no pressure, and so some of these guys are gonna, just look a little look like they can do a little more than maybe they can in a game that means something. But he would to me, he would be the new Otto Porter for real. I've heard people say, "Oh, he's the new Otto Porter. He's the new Otto Porter." We've been on the hunt for the new Otto Porter, so people are like trying to find who can play that role. This guy would be that. He's not the rebounder Otto Porter is. He's not as tough as Otto Porter is, but he's every bit the shooter. He can do a little more off the bounce, right? He can be like a second side attacker at times, and then he's much more mobile up and down the court, right? He's just been more durable than Otto was. So would y'all do it? Because it's going to cost Kuminga, right? I went through the machine. Melton, Kuminga, Lindy Waters. Again, would it be a pick? I'm guessing maybe not like the pick, but some picks would be involved. I don't know. Listen, if Steph wasn't still Steph, I don't know. I don't know about that, right? But Steph is still Steph. And so this is the type of move, a right now move that would make a lot of sense. And yeah. And I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, no. Kuminga. Listen, Kuminga, I don't think would be too upset about it. He went to high school in New Jersey. If he gets handed the keys this year to go and he's going to get paid and they're going to be like, all right, we'll pay you. And the system is better for him, like more of just a traditional ISO. You see what Cam Thomas is doing there, right? So I'm not so sure Kuminga wouldn't be he'd be happy about it probably, to be honest with you. But I don't know. It sounds like it would make sense for both parties. However, ironically, wouldn't it be funny if they hand Kuminga the keys and he just blasts them out of the Cooper flag stakes? The flag, what are they calling it? I don't know. But, if Kuminga, and I know Dub Nation would be super salty, but there's a very real possibility that if they made that trade, they'd still be too good to be where they want to be in the lottery. But on paper, it makes sense for both teams. Now, what about Cam Thomas? He's actually in the same spot as Kuminga, a young, promising scorer who couldn't come to an extension agreement this summer with his team. And so now Brooklyn's like, all right. Unlike the Warriors haven't really said that about Kuminga. But Cam Thomas, listen, when you turn on a movie expecting one thing, you want something light. You want like a slapstick comedy or like a romantic comedy, and it ends up being a little darker than you want. You're like halfway through, you're like, dang, man, this is kind of dark. This is like too realistic. And so you can't enjoy it for what it is because it's not what you thought it was. Cam Thomas, if you understand who he is, what he is as a ball player, I think you can enjoy it. He is an assassin. He is a go-get-a-bucket six-man. Now, he's been misrolled with Brooklyn and the opportunities as like their lead guard. He's not that. Could he be what Jordan Poole once was? That third guard, that second guy that can go get hot and create a shot? He could be. Now, that said, I can't see Steve Kerr greenlighting a move to pick him up because it would cost Kuminga. That would be it, right? It would be they're in the same spot. Brooklyn's like, we'll extend Kuminga, and the Warriors are like, we'll extend Cam Thomas, or at least we'll see what he does the rest of this year. I can't see the Warriors pulling the trigger on that move. One, because I just don't think he's a culture fit. He's such an ISO go get a bucket guy, even though we need that. I don't think that they would do that. There are two more possibilities on this roster that may be the moves, the smarter, smaller moves. Dorian Finney-Smith or Dennis Schroeder. These guys are both 30 and older, 30, 31 years old. They're both on like $13, $14 million contracts and one-year deals. Finney-Smith is on a 2-year deal. But Schroeder, ironically, that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to trade for another small guard. And Kerr is going to be like, we needed a ball handler. But Schroeder is having damn near a career year, and he still has that burst. He is one of the best stop and start guys in the league. When he starts to turn the corner and then hezzies on you and goes, it's unguardable. Ask Steph. Steph has a hell of a time against Schroeder. And you saw him really mature for Germany, I think, in the Olympics, being the leader for that team. And he's you could argue in the prime of his career. He's on a 1-year just make good deal with Brooklyn. If you could go get him for DeAnthony Melton, basically straight up, that could certainly help. That could certainly, as a guy, just a second unit guy that can get wherever he wants on the floor, set guys up, and get to scoring, big game experience. It makes a ton of sense. Finney Smith, a 3-and-D wing. You know, you can fit him into any lineup. Now, let's talk about DeAnthony Melton, because if you noticed, I've thrown his name in all these trades. He sprains the ACL. What game was that against? I forget. Someone that we beat. We beat a lot of guys already. Was it the Clay game? It was the Dallas game. And then yesterday, Steve Kerr let me, hold on, give me a second here. I want to give you the verbatim Kerr comments because it doesn't sound good. Here we go. Quote, he's been seeking other opinions. We've really been evaluating everything, just trying to get him the best advice he can get. And we're obviously very concerned. We're really taking our time and making sure DeAnthony gets all the advice he needs. And the context around it was Melton is seeking a second opinion. That's never a good thing on an injury. Like when that's, you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like to me when Kawhi tore the ACL a few playoffs ago or at the end of the season, right? Because he played through the end and they listened to him. This ad is all in my face. They played through the end of the game, and this is kind of how they slow rolled it. Not all ACLs are like just a tear and that's it, and they get carried off and that's what it is. It can be a partial one. And the thing was, Melton finished that game. How much more damage did he do to the knee? And so Melton, man, he's such a perfect fit, and it seemed like such a great acquisition, but I was on this a little bit early. I was like, yo, you know, this durability thing, you know this to be true, y'all. Think about it you could go back to grade school. You could go back to middle school on your Pop Warner team, your soccer team, your basketball teams, your friends. There's always a couple guys, a couple kids that are always hurt. And you say, oh, it's bad luck, bad luck. And then by the time you're grown men and you're in a pickup league and they're still always hurt, that's just what it is. That injury prone is a real thing. And unfortunately, DeAnthony Melton is injury prone. He is. Sounds like an ACL to me, like what second opinion to me means they're seeing if he needs surgery. And so he is on a 1-year deal. And so that's why if you throw him to the Nets, trade him to the Nets, don't want to sound insensitive, or put him in these trades to a team that's looking to dump salary, because that's what it sounds like it's going to end up being. It sucks because you saw what he was in those few games he was healthy. I got one last thought on these trades. And someone brought this up in the comments. Forgive me for not giving you your credit, but I read so many comments between the different platforms. Sometimes stuff just gets lost in the shuffle, but I don't want to say like, oh, this was my idea here. But someone was like, hey, what about Bam Adebayo? You know, the Heat are sputtering. Jimmy Butler, their time passed. That's what it feels like to me, honestly. And, they'll hang around Heat culture. I'm not saying they're not going to be like in the playoffs, but they're not a contender, right? And so what if Riles and them decided, all right, we got to blow this up. We got to go a different direction. I honestly think Bam would be better than Giannis for our system. High post catch, he and Draymond in the paint. Because Giannis, as dominant as he is, that's what he is. He's dominant. He's going to disrupt the flow in how the Warriors do things. You'd have to really change how you play. Bam, the Warriors can keep everything intact and just have like fucking Looney on steroids, right? Like beyond that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how realistic it is, but I'm just saying keep an eye. If their season goes south, could you throw them Melton, Peyton, Looney, Kuminga, and all the picks? We know it would cost all the picks. It would cost a Giannis type cabinet to retain Bam. You bring back Bam and Josh Richardson. That's something that would be intriguing when you talk about these blockbusters, because I'm kind of on record saying like, yo, the way that the league is setting up now, it's going to be adding depth and these role players and these guys that are, the Dorian Finney-Smiths and the Dennis Schroeders, Cam Johnsons, right? But that, if you could get your hands on Bam, I think we'd be the favorites. I think we'd be the favorites in the league. And you could say that about Giannis maybe, but Giannis is a disruptor, man. Giannis is a disruptor. I don't think we need his bullshit around here now. All right, that's it on the trades.